Hello there, Ben Bowers, the Spirit Specialist, and I am here today to talk to you about the absolutely beautiful Angel's Envy. Beautiful bottle, and also, I'm kind of biased on this, an absolutely beautiful whiskey. The reason I'm biased is this is one of my all-time favourite, not just bourbon whiskies in general. I absolutely love this stuff, and I'm so pleased to finally, just behind me, have it on the shelf available for sale. The first time I saw this, I had to pick the bottle up. Not sure if you will be able to see it through. It doesn't really work with my shirt as the background, but the angel's wings that are on the back of the bottle that you can see through the whiskey. The bottle caught my eye instantly. I bought it, and fortunately the liquid inside is just as good as the bottle looks. So I'm really happy that I finally got it available to sell. Only available in the UK from about February 2020, I think it was, that it was officially distributed. However, it's possible you may not have come across this, or you may have seen it and thinking, no, well, it looks good, it's probably not that good inside. So first, let me give you a bit of background information about Lincoln Henderson, because it is from the cellars of Lincoln Henderson. So let me tell you about Lincoln and Angel's Envy and the distillery itself.
Angel's Envy was launched in 2011 by Wes Henderson and his father Lincoln, who had been a master distiller with Brown Forman for 40 years. Indeed, Lincoln is credited with creating the Woodford Reserve brand along with Gentleman Jack. Wes persuaded his father to come out of retirement after several years in 2006 to start experimenting with cask finishing whiskies, and the pair released their first commercial bottling 5 years later, highlighting the 3 to 6 month finishing casks that had previously held port wine. Cask finishing is a technique often used in Scotch whisky, but it's a very rare occurrence in American whisky production, and Angel's Envy was one of the first brands to release one in great quantity. The brand name itself stems from Lincoln tasting his first batch, joking that if the Angel's share is what evaporates from the barrel, what's left inside must be the Angel's Envy. At first, Angel's Envy was a sourced bourbon, obtaining stocks from a variety of distilleries, but in August 2013, ground was broken on a $12 million distillery to be built on Louisville's Main Street. Unfortunately, just a few weeks later, Lincoln Henderson sadly passed away at the age of 75. Despite being acquired by Bacardi in 2015, Angel's Envy remains very much part of the Henderson family. Wes Henderson remains as Chief Innovation Officer, and 4 of his 6 sons, Kyle, Andrew, Connor and Spencer, work in various roles within the company. Angel's Envy has a mash bill of 72% corn, 18% rye and 10% malted barley, a mash bill that Lincoln himself described as a traditional mash bill that provided the right balance for a port cask finish. It is bottled at 43.3% ABV, and the brand was only officially distributed to the UK from February 2020.
Right then, so that's a bit of background info. This is not much left of my own bottle. I've had this for about a year. I tend to have a bottle of Angel's Envy in my personal stash at all times. I think it's absolutely beautiful stuff. I really like it. So as you can probably imagine, this is going to be a pretty positive review. But like anything in the shop, if I'm not that keen on it, if it doesn't excite me, if I don't think it tastes very nice, I'm not going to sell it in my shop anyway. So it's a good indication that I think it's good if it's on the shelves and on the web store available to buy. But let me give you an idea of what this tastes like. So we have Kentucky straight bourbon, so minimum of 2 years, and it's that finish in port wine as well. That's the intriguing thing. That was kind of what, as well as the Angel's Wings, that was what caught my eye. I'm a bit of a sucker for 2 things involved in whiskey maturation: port pipes and Pedro Jimenez sherry. If I come across a whiskey that has any kind of involvement of those type of casks, I'll probably buy it and I'll probably enjoy it. It's just a type of flavour profile, those 2, that for me work incredibly well with whiskey. Pedro Jimenez tends to give you kind of a sweet, rich, dark fruit flavour. Port pipes, I find, you do get a rich fruitiness. It's a little bit more berry-like than PX does, but it's still, I love there's not that many port finishes out. There seems to be almost more PX than port, but port is less used in terms of finishing or even full-term maturation. So, Angel's Envy on the nose. And what I love about this is the combination of fruit and spice. It's got a slightly Christmassy feel to it. There's elements of red berries, stewed plums. There's a touch of cinnamon and nutmeg, but there's also a slight sweetness to it as well. There's a little bit of orange peel. It's one of those wonderful noses that changes every time you take a sniff of it. The best spirits for me are the ones that keep changing, keep evolving, keep offering something new as you go back to them. And this is absolutely one of them. You do get that fruitiness there, but there's a brilliant balance between fruit and spice where one doesn't really dominate the other, and it really does intermingle brilliantly. Another one of those noses that I could literally just sit for 35, 40 minutes. I don't know why I've said 35, 40, it's very specific. I was about to say half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, but for some reason I went 35, 40. Either way, you could sit for a long time and just nose this. Elements of almost like an earthiness start coming through. There's kind of like bitter dark chocolate, like high cocoa dark chocolate. Then it softens back and you get kind of red currants, raspberries. That orange peel starts to come back. Then there's a bit more of an earthiness, then a bit more spice, almost like chili spice, but it's very soft chili spice. That ebbs away, you tend to get a bit more fruit. It evolves, it changes, it dances around each other. It's so, so good. Okay, so the question now is, does it evolve onto the palate as we've got in the nose? And absolutely it does. It's soft. You do get a prickle of heat, but even though it's 18% rye, you wouldn't go, oh, this is quite rye heavy. Sweeter, less of the vanilla that you would associate with bourbon, and much more of a fruity feel to it. Very much that red fruits that's on the nose really carries on into, on the palate, not quite summer pudding, it's not quite as fresh, but you do get like a red berry feel that's maybe not quite as deep as, say, stewed plums and damsons. The Christmassy vibe is there, the kind of like that orange feel, the orange oil, what was orange zest. On the nose is more of an orange oil. There's a nice kind of thick weight to it as well. I think for some people, you might find this a little bit too lacking in spice. There are people out there that like their rye heavies, they like ryes, they like rye heavy bourbons that want spice and heat. And this doesn't really have the spice and the heat. This is very much fruit driven. And a large part of that is that port finish. What that's giving you is that red berry element. So you do get the spicy element that's on there, that kind of cinnamon, nutmeg, dry chili flakes, is more prevalent on the nose than it is on the palate. That's kind of dialed down, and then you get more of that red fruit character. It's incredibly easy to drink. Almost a touch of mint. There's a little hint of menthol coming through there as well. It's less Christmassy, less festive on the palate than it is on the nose. It's incredibly easy to drink. I do think that there'll be some people going, oh, it doesn't quite have enough oomph for me. And that's fine. This is very much on that easier drinking scale of bourbon. And if you've got a bottle that looks as good as that does, if you were to then kind of go, oh, it's a real struggle to drink because it's so hot and spicy and everything like that, it's almost a bit of a shame. You kind of want a bottle that looks that good to be easy drinking, because there are people that are going to see that on your shelf and want to try it. And this will appeal to a vast range of whiskey stroke bourbon drinkers in general. There's loads going on with this. The fruitiness, that port influence, that kind of the red berry, it's not as sharp as red currants. It's not quite strawberry. It's a weird kind of like amalgamation of a number of red berries kind of crushed together. You know, black currants, blackberries in there as well. A little touch of spice. You do get that kind of caramel toffee. The vanilla's there, but it's quite subdued. But it's very much kind of like easy drinking, but still bags of character to it. This would work in an old fashioned, probably actually better with a Manhattan, because I think that fruity element in here is going to work really well with the likes of a red vermouth. So any kind of whiskey cocktail that you're using, like a sweet vermouth, that sort of thing, is going to complement this absolutely brilliantly. Old fashions, you might want to maybe add an extra dash of bitters, or look at something like maybe the smoked old fashioned syrup that I've got in the shop. That's gone down far too easily. A bottle will go down far too easily. It is on for sale at $59.99. Now, considering how much it is in America, which is where I've tended to pick up most of my bottles, if you're in America going, Jesus, that's a bit expensive, because I think it's about $45 from recollection. But that's the way that the market is going at the moment, and there aren't many places selling Angel's Envy, which astounds me because it's such an eye-catching bottle and such a wonderful, wonderful whiskey that I'm amazed that nobody else really seems to kind of like pick this up. There are one or two other places, and I'm basically trying to remain competitive with them. But being the size that I am, I haven't got the economies of scale to get it at a vastly reduced rate, but I've tried to remain as competitive as I possibly can. I think compared to the majority of other American whiskies that are out there, it is actually a really good price, and my God, does it look good. You know, it's one of those where I'm happy to pay an extra tenner just to have such a stunning looking bottle. Now, there is a cask strength version of Angel's Envy. There is also a Angel's Envy rye that I think's been finished in rum casks. At the moment, those aren't available in the UK. I really, really hope they are at some point, because, you know, I want the full set on the shelf, and I've not tried the rum cask yet, and I really, really want to. Every time I've been out in the States in the last few years, I keep missing it. It's never been in stock, and I really, really want to try it because I really like rum cask whiskies as well, and a rye version of that I think could work absolutely brilliantly. Irrespective of that, it's available through the website www.spiritspecialist.com. You can also come in the store and pick up a bottle, and this is mine, but I am going to keep it in the shop. So if you do want to come in the shop and you want to try it yourself, I'll reluctantly share some of this with you so that you can try it. But it's amazing. It looks stunning. It tastes fantastic. I cannot recommend it highly enough. I'm so pleased I finally got it on the shelf. This really was a bit of a unicorn for me to get in the shop, because it is, like I say, one of my absolute all-time favorites. The first bottle I got was not long after it launched. I think it was 2012 I got the bottle, and it was purely, the bottle looks amazing. I really hope it tastes as good as it looks, and it did. So, highly recommend it. Come and pick up a bottle. That's me done. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.